Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at an off-road racing game called Monster Trucks, or there was otherwise known as Thunder Truck Rally in other regions. That was released by the same developers that made the Destruction Derby series back in the early days of the PlayStation. And this was kind of relatively developed around the same time as Destruction Derby 2. I remember actually when I first got to see this game in action, I remember it was actually the very first time I'd actually sat and actually played the PlayStation. I was down in my mate Mark's house and he had a couple of games and he also had a few demos, and there was a demo of this here with this particular level here on that demo that you could play as. And again, it was still kind of like in a beta kind of phase because you didn't have a lot of the other elements, like in terms of the suspension features and the likes of damage effects of the trucks, so you couldn't really damage it. Now you were restricted to time. I think you had like a minute and a half to 2 minutes to play through the demo, and I remember actually playing that and I actually was really enjoying it. And the fact is, because with the demo you were totally open, you could not only just go out on the track, you were able to go outside of the track as well and explore other environments within the time frame as well. But it also, I didn't realise until the full game was released that when you're able to go outside the tracks like that, because there is a lot of other endurance type of events in the game that's more open world based, and these tracks are all kind of linked to that. They're all kind of in the same type of space within each of the levels. The track is really only for the likes of the circuit based racing. Everything else is kind of based for the endurance based or other type of events. It was a pretty cool concept at the time. And I remember I did actually enjoy the demo, and I was actually like, you know what, I actually would like to actually play the game when it actually does come out. Now I do remember seeing it in magazines, and it did, I will admit, getting a lot of mixed reviews, because I do remember back in the days that the magazines were kind of disappointed or that it didn't actually offer a lot of what it promised in terms of certain things that were supposed to be included in the game. And it just felt that it didn't feel as polished as, say, the likes of Destruction Derby 2, which was relatively a totally different game in most respects, but it was so well refined and so well praised, and it just didn't, this here didn't get as good results as it. But that's not to say that it was a bad game. Again, it was totally unique in its way. It was a difficult game, that's the one thing I will say. Even with Destruction Derby was a difficult game, but at the same time you could have a lot of fun with it. You could do that with this here, but if you really wanted to take it seriously, it was very, very hard to win races. The collision detection in this here was definitely not up to scratch compared to the likes of the Destruction Derby games. If you crashed into a wall or into another truck, you would just literally just be stuck against them and you couldn't actually move. So that actually really kind of, it had hampered the playability of the game as well. So it did. Plus there was a lot of like glitches kind of in the graphics, and the draw distance as well wasn't as good. The frame rate wasn't as good in this game compared to the likes of Destruction Derby 2, which was a bit of a shame. But taken away from all the flaws, I do remember when I did get to play the original game, I'll be honest, it took me a while to kind of get into it. I didn't enjoy it straight away as much as I would have liked to, considering I actually really enjoyed that original demo I played a couple of years beforehand. But I suppose I'd gone through that phase of playing so many top quality games that when I did get to this here, my expectations probably were way more than what I perceived the game to be. So the game definitely wasn't as good as other games that I had played. But I suppose that kind of happens when you're so used to playing like really, really good games. You do have those high expectations that every other photo game you play, regardless if it's an older game, you would expect it to be a little bit better. And it's not to say that it's a bad game. It is actually a very enjoyable game when you get the hang of it and you can get around the glitches and the fiddly mechanics. It is an enjoyable experience and you will enjoy it, but it is very difficult because of the damage mechanics as well. And you have like a damage bar, as you can see here. It is actually extremely difficult to actually finish a full race without actually completely wiping out your truck. You will literally maybe only get to maybe the second lap if you're lucky, and you'll completely annihilate your truck. So you have to really be conservative in how you actually drive and not be going over too many jumps or crashing into too many things. But the only problem with that is by being conservative you also lose out in the risk of losing your positions in the race. So once other trucks in the race get ahead of you, it's very, very hard to really catch up with them, especially when they're up higher in the ranks, like say in first place. And some of the tracks, it's nearly impossible sometimes to keep up with them. The only advantage of the game was at the time that you did have access to certain specific cheat codes that were similar to what you would do in the likes of the Destruction Derby games, that allowed you to literally drive around and unlock all the features, but also allowed you to have no damage on the truck, so you could drive around it well. So you didn't have to worry about being conservative, so you could drive as recklessly as you wanted. So that definitely made the game a little bit easier. And in some ways, that was a lot of the ways I remember when I was playing it, that was sometimes the only way that you could really kind of finish the championships and actually win them, because it was very, very difficult to try and win them playing the game normally, because the damage physics didn't allow you to really take advantage of a race, because your car or your truck would be destroyed 9 times out of 10 before you even got to even a quarter of the way or half the way through the races. So it did leave you feeling a bit frustrated. But it is a good game for what it is. It is a decent enough off-road racer. Yes, there are better off-road racers out there, but this here is actually quite fun, because the fact that you're playing as actual monster trucks, and like there is like really, really insane, crazy jumps. Like when you go over big, massive jumps, you go really high in the air. It does offer a lot of other events as well, like endurance races, where you're actually in some of the open world segments, as I mentioned earlier, where you're actually trying to go through checkpoints, and each checkpoint is kind of like a lap. That's the way the game kind of views it as. So you have to try and get to each checkpoint within the time frame, but also try to get there first before your other competitors do, so that you can win the race. Then they've also got arena battles where you're actually crushing cars. Now that was actually a really cool concept. Now the damage physics of that wasn't that great. That was the only downside of that, because you would have expected to see like proper real physical damage, like you would see like in Destruction Derby games where the cars are just completely annihilated. There wasn't really that element of that in this here, or even in those car crushing arena battle modes. But it was still a pretty cool concept all the same, and it was one of the first games to really kind of implement that and test it out. So in hindsight, it is a decent game. You do have a selection of tracks and a load of cool looking trucks, each with their own unique characteristics, and some do handle better than others and actually will last longer in race, depending on which one that you pick. And it's totally up to yourself, but it pretty much is what you get out of it. Now, it took me a while, like I said, to get into it, but once I sat down with it and gave it a good try, I actually did start to really enjoy it a lot more, and I could see what was available in the game. This here particular level now was actually a level that was actually on another demo that I actually got. It was actually the first demo disc that I actually bought myself from one of the UK PlayStation magazines, and it came with 4 actual games on it. There was this here, there was Porsche Challenge, Micro Machines V3, and Excalibur 2555 AD, and that was actually a fantastic demo. Like there was, even though there was only 4 games in it, but they were all 4 really, really cool games. And even at this here, I do remember actually playing the hell out of this demo, and I actually have to say now, even at that, I definitely enjoyed this here. It was pretty cool going over likes of volcanoes and stuff, trying not to get stuck in the lava, because it would just completely destroy your truck. So it is, I have to say now, it is actually quite really enjoyable. So eventually when I did get into the game, like I mentioned, when I did manage to purchase it myself, I actually bought it on eBay a couple of years later. And it did take me a while to really kind of sit down with it and really just get into it. But when I did, it actually was a decent game. I know it's not the best off-road game out there, but what it lacks in a lot of ways, it definitely makes up for in like cool jumps, and just it does. You will actually have quite a bit of fun with this if you just want to drive recklessly. Now you won't last too long, but you will have a bit of fun all the same. So if you are into these type of racers, or you want to try something different, or you just want to play something that's a little bit quirky and different, I would definitely give this a go and see what you think for yourself, because it definitely is a unique game worth looking into, for sure.
Three, two, one, go!
So what are your thoughts on Monster Trucks or Thunder Truck Rally? Did you play it back in the day? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be updated whenever I release future videos, as I will be replaying old classic games such as this here, and also exploring other games I never got to play back in the days of the PlayStation, and sharing my thoughts and experiences with all of you. Plus it also does help with me to create more videos and increase engagement on the channel. So until next time, keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.